Hello? What the deal? Yeah. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Vic, for putting this con on again with you and your team. Happy to be here for my second year of this con. I came here exclusively, now twice, just for this con, which, who does that? Yeah, that's stupid. Yeah. So I made some really bad life decisions last night and this morning, and stopped showing up about 20-30 minutes ago. So yeah, this is going to be like the talk equivalent of a human zoo. So if you were one of those people who had to walk out of Deadpool because you thought it was a bit intense, there's a Lockpick Village way down that way, far enough away that you won't hear me, and that would not be a terrible idea. The con is also not responsible for, this is rule number 4, possibly 5, the con is not responsible for any of the content or words said by presenters. That's on me, so please don't take it out on anyone else. Okay, great. So Vic introduced me, but I thought to further my own embarrassment, I would include pictures and a bit more information about myself that people who apparently call themselves my friends, when I'm not in the country, they print shit out of me and take it places. So I've been on the hit TV show Scorpion once or twice as an extra, and I'm also the cyber language expert for Scorpion as well. So you have me to thank for the 747 hack in particular. That was me. I promise you that is the truth. So this is the first you're hearing about, the honorary CEO of Fail Australia. We do import-export think tank-based research and development. It's very interesting. One time I put a land turtle, actually one time I mean last week, I put a land turtle in a pineapple and then put a rubber ducky on it and tried to go on the internet and then fucked around with it at work for 3 hours and nothing happened. So maybe next year, talk suggestion, please help. Ask me a question whenever you like, but there is a condition. You drink rules are in effect. I am the first presenter this year to do you drink. Yeah, so which is really exciting, and you're gonna love it because I brought an Australian delicacy with me. Very expensive. It's amazing. So yeah, we better get a move on. Okay, yeah, I need to lift my energy. I gotta get my great energy back. So you drink. Figure 2. Goon. A little bit of trivia about Goon. Number 1, it's 2 p.m, so this is totally cool. So Goon is the official drink of 14 to, or actually more like 12 to 70-year-olds in Australia, and it's also popular with college students because you can get 30 standard drinks, which is what Jim Leahy drank last night for about $6. I mean, 6 motherfuckers, yeah. Which is just so you understand what I'm saying, 6 motherfuckers, not dollars. Yeah. Alrighty. So in the other figure 4 in the unlabeled pictures is a clothesline. We would call that a Hills hoist. The game that we play is called Goon of Fortune. And how Goon of Fortune is like Wheel of Fortune, but not. There endeth the talk. Thank you. So what you do, as you can see, it's like a wholesome family event. We got all kinds of people getting involved there, little kids, other dudes. Chicks love watching you play Goon of Trivia or Goon of Fortune. God, yeah. So what you do is you hang it on the clothesline or the Hills hoist, and then you spin that thing around, and whoever it stops in front of has to drink the Goon. I didn't bring a Hills hoist with me, but I do have my helpful assistant, you. and you, who's standing at a good height to get a good aeration of the Goon into your mouth. So if you ask me a question or you just want to try an Australian delicacy, just come up and enjoy. It's also rude to decline an offer from another culture of sampling their like shit. And I know Americans really like to be rude, but not this time. Yeah. Kind of heavy. It's also not my piss, by the way. It's not. I can prove it. One moment while I prove it. Yeah, I did. Okay. All right. Now that that's water under the fridge, let's move on to the actual part that you came for, the learning of. Oh shit. So why the fuck would you want to reverse engineer an iOS app anyway? Like FBI, dormant cyber pathogens. Dormant cyber pathogens. Say it with me. Dormant cyber pathogens. Yeah. Cyber. Okay, it'll be on the next season of Scorpion, I promise you. I've already written the script. Yeah, I got drunk as fuck last night and wrote the script and sent it to them. And they're going to pay me $5 dues. That's 5 motherfuckers, and then they get to have it. So, like nearly every iOS app I've ever looked at has pretty significant privacy issues alongside 1 or 2 smatterings of security issues. For example, like Instagram, that thing that I don't use but somehow exists and is worth like $1 billion. They had like some holy shit things wrong with their app until like late last year. So we heard in the last talk from Solray where it's like everything that we learned about regular applications we forgot when we came across the mobiles. And then it seems like with the embedded devices we just like went fuck it, just do it live. And then of course the other thing is that like everything wants access to all your freaking cameras and pictures and all this kind of crap, and yeah, it's why. So I like to pull them apart and figure out why and get confused, and yeah. So one important thing to note about this talk is the intended audience. If you already reverse engineer iOS apps, like just go to the Lockpick Village and build your badge or some shit, because you will not enjoy this. And I probably have some questions that I could ask you, so if you could just come and see me, then that'd be cool. Yeah, I mean it. So what I want to do is give everyone else a feel for reverse engineer in iOS and see how accessible it is, because a lot of people hear the words reverse engineer in iOS and they're like, so, yep, there goes like a year's worth of research, got to buy a fucking MacBook Pro, got to buy an iDevice, got to buy all this expensive software and crap. The goal of this talk is to show you how to do it as cheaply as possible. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to try and show you some things that would be great value for your time. And the second thing I want to do inside of that is skip a lot of stuff. There is a whole massive section of things that I'm not even going to mention. So I hope that isn't the part that if someone came here to listen to this that they came for, because it won't be there. So the other cool thing that I'm interested in from privacy reasons is like rampant advertising and monetization via third parties and ad read networking and XYZ and all that confusing shit that somehow people end up making money, which is never me. But yeah, so your average app, even paid ones, especially the paid ones actually, is calling at least like 10 different advertising or remarketing things, right? Which sounds rather innocuous in some ways, depending on what they're sending, of course, is the next thing. But the other thing that is from a developer's point of view, you might go to a significant amount of trouble preparing your shit and making it good, and then you're like, well, now we need to make some money off this fucking thing, so let's load in some advertising, and then it just undoes all your good work. And I'm about to show you some examples of that, hopefully. Okay. So I'm also going to be covering the methodology of like the getting around the walled garden and that kind of crap, because, you know, the walled garden has its advantages, but it does make tinkering and fucking around with things kind of difficult if you don't own a whole bunch of Apple devices. So I've spent a fair bit of time not owning an Apple device, and then I bought one recently and it's actually quite nice. Yeah, I have a big problem with like barriers to entry to shit, because I like it when I can do stuff. Yeah. So the other thing is, I was speaking to someone last night and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, ugh. And from that, they were like, you're talking about reverse engineering, and that sounds difficult and hard and boring and stupid, and I don't want to know because it sounds terrible. He's actually here in the audience, so yeah, thanks, man. That's cool. And basically what I said is, no, it's not that bad. We can do this together. Hold my hand. Please come up here and hold my hand and drink some goon. John. No, John with the Thule bag, please. John, please. Goon. Drink the goon. Give him a clap. Yeah. Yeah. Three claps for John. Yeah, it's true. Americans really love clapping. It's just another thing that I've noticed. It's great. Yeah. Yeah. It's not my piss. It's not my piss. Turn the tap. He's got to turn the tap. It tastes. It's just. Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Yeah. See. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You're amazing. So the other thing to be clear is the ability to reverse engineer an app won't get you anywhere on a bug bounty, by the way. So don't like report that as a thing. You know, people report like 404s on websites as bug bounties and shit. Yeah, don't be that guy, because someone will put it on Twitter or whatever. Not that I give a shit about Twitter, but other people do. Okay. But the thing about it is that, and what I want you to take away from this is, the shit they're about to do is that if you actually want to do a bug bounty or just look at an app, if you put it on a jailbroke device, a lot of the good apps and some of the shitty ones, because they don't want you to know, have like jailbreak protections on them. So you go to start them and they don't fucking do anything, which is a problem because it means you can't look at them. And then if they have a PIN certificate on top of that, you can't do anything. So yeah, let's fuck with that. So the other thing is, if anyone didn't get up and leave when I mentioned that I'm going to be talking about stuff you already know, the right-hand side of this slide has like interesting things. So I live in the middle of nowhere, like 9 hours from an international airport. So like, and I'm retarded, so I like get bitten by things all the time. And I put them there for you. So the boring steps to get started, I'm not even going to list them, but let's say that you do a whole bunch of things, and then you get to the part where you install something called Clutch on a jailbroken device. Now, the part that I haven't really been able to get around is that at some point you need to buy an iThing, like a second-hand iPad 2. So the first thing I ever bought was like a refurbished iPad 2 Wi-Fi. It was like $100 dollary-doos, which is roughly like 70 marfuckers. And then, you know, I can have iOS 8 and 9 and all that kind of crap on there and mess around with things. So yeah, Clutch is like the tool that does a lot of the work. It's like an executable dumper. Well, it's not like one, it is one. There are lots of guides for Clutch online, so all I'm going to say is make sure you capitalize the C, otherwise it doesn't do anything. Yeah. I may at one point been like, why don't I, and then that was because I hadn't capitalized the C for like too long. So Clutch is often fucky. That's one of the other things I'll say about Clutch, is that it's just fucked. Like, that came out wrong. Clutch is sick, but it is a bit fucked. So if you've got a device that is like ARM 64-bit capable and you use this executable dumper, it'll like throw a whole bunch of errors and go, sorry, I didn't do it, like, fuck you. And then you look at it and go, oh shit, well, then you install Clutch 2 and then you realize it's really different and all the warnings are like, this is a dev version, it doesn't fucking work. And so then you play around with that and it does the same thing. It actually puts the 32-bit binary in a temp file and then it works. You just grab the 32-bit binary. So the story is that like ARM 64-bit binaries are fucked and they're really hard to work with, and nothing seems to work properly on them, at least all like the free cheap shit that I use anyway. So yeah. So all you do is you go in your temp file and you find the one with the right timestamp, and then you just suck that out to your machine. So now you got your lab set up. What I originally wanted to do was do a live demo here where I'm like, hey, yeah, let's go on the Apple Store and fuck with something. Let's pick it together. And then I was like, don't pick anything from Google. Don't pick anything from XYZ because that would have been boring. So what I did is I did a trial run like on the plane and that, trying to figure out before 2 different women offered me sleeping pills. So that was cool. Yeah. Oh, man. Stay focused. So what I did is I just went to the business app section and picked one and I recognized one of the names as like, when people send me emails, it's like sent from my mobile using XYZ, and I'm like, I recognize that thing, I'm gonna play with that, because the people that have been emailing me, they're like a lot of sensitive data, private health information, XYZ, like important for in a minute when you see how fucking terrible this thing is. So what I did is I picked that one. It has a free and a paid version, which was also what I wanted, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, you used a free app. Like, of course it was terrible. You're the product, blah, blah, blah. But it turns out that the paid ones are like just as bad, if not worse, right? It's just, half the time it seems like when you put dollars on an app, it's actually a marketing technique, not because you spent any more time on it. It's like an indicator of quality. Like if you paid $200 to come to this conference instead of $40, you'd probably expect a higher quality talk than this one for starters. But you would also feel like you got more value out of it because you would actually be paying attention. So what I did is I've taken the data from my trial run and done my best to black out the identifiers of this thing, which took 3 goes. Like, I missed so much shit the first 2 times. I was really disappointed in myself. I'm normally like pretty like eyes on the prize, details man. Ask anyone. Yeah, I'm not going to be covering like file systems, database, SQLite database, or anything like that. Shit is boring. It's fun, like but it's not good for this kind of crap. And like I said, there's plenty of crap on the internet, and almost everyone in this room has browsed a file directory or used like a database before. So it's basically the same thing. So the app is a free and paid version thing with. It's a mail app. It's got a beautiful interface, and it's really good at managing multiple email accounts. And I actually really liked it from just actually steering around with it. So yeah, it's $3 dues for the app, which is like 2 and 15 motherfuckers, or however you pronounce it when something's 15 cents. So I thought what we might do is demonstrate the difference between the free and the paid app. And I can tell you in one sentence, they're both the same. Yeah, what the fuck? I don't know what happens when you pay for it compared to when you don't pay for it, because I noticed no changes like at all. And I got confused. So, yeah. So I start with traffic analysis, which, surprise, is not actually reverse engineering, but that's what we're going to talk about for the next couple of minutes. So it's actually quite interesting. So the traffic analysis is that in a device that wasn't jailbroken, because the app wouldn't let me run it on a jailbroken thing, is like, it's like getting 2 birds stoned at once. What you do is you get to look at the application and see how it works. So when you're like messing around with the code, you actually understand what's happening. But it also lets you fill the database with information that might be private information that you can flag for later. And then also you get to watch the traffic. If it wasn't, if there was no pinning or whatever, you could also watch the traffic and learn some stuff. So it's actually like getting 3 birds stoned at once, not 2, but yeah. Cool. So traffic analysis. First of all, this isn't the advertiser ID that you're looking at in terms of the API keys that are flying around there. You can see the API key there in the first thing up the top. Maybe if you're outside the first like 2 rows. Sorry, but I'll describe it to you. So you can see that it's sharing your API key over HTTPS through core application functionality, which is exactly what you would expect it to do. But I did find that when I entered my email account about 2 minutes after all the initial shit happened, was that it switched back to HTTP and then exposed my email address and the API key and a couple other things, which was fun, which is the second picture. So then the third picture is a little bit more interesting. Not only did it share my PHP session ID over HTTP, the token didn't reset. Like I checked the token earlier this morning, and the token still hadn't reset, and it's been days, which it also shared over HTTP, like my fucking mail account. So I had a fair bit of data now to go through, as you can imagine, and so much advertising stuff. Like I just couldn't keep up with it all. There was just so much shit everywhere. And then what I was noticing it was doing was it was sharing the API key that it was using to pull down my mail with 3 different advertisers, which is good because that's what I want. I want targeted advertising from my corporate email accounts. Who doesn't want that? No. How am I supposed to buy shit I don't need if people won't tell me what I want? So yeah, I mean, it feels kind of redundant to mention here, but obviously if someone's sniffing your traffic anywhere, you're in a lot of trouble if you're using this freaking thing because, you know, now that your business email's exposed, things are not going so great for you. So I will mention though what I would like to see it doing because that's probably important instead of just like posing all these problems and not saying anything positive. I would like to see use of like server calls to retrieve the external API information rather than device codes, which is another thing it was doing. If the device has to make API calls, which they need to, right, then I'd like to see it being like OAuth and non-spaced, which it wasn't. And then, you know, and then it shouldn't really be storing the keys either, because that's stupid. But and if we need to use the API again after a login, then it should probably be sticking in the keychain. There's nowhere really good on Android or iOS devices to store that kind of shit, but the keychain's like as good as you're probably going to get. So, but yeah, I'm not going to talk much more about impact of like traffic being middled because, like, once again, that's kind of redundant. So, yeah. Let's move on. So this is another interesting thing that covers a lot more bases. Now, this isn't really a security vulnerability. This is more of if you're work at a shop that makes apps and yours does this, it will probably get banned from the App Store when Apple figure it out, for example. And then if you're ever buying something and it's your job to make sure the shit you buy is going to work for the company and you see this, there's a good chance the app's going to disappear from the store and then get removed from all your users' devices. Now, what we're looking at here is called the IDFA, which is the identifier for advertisers. So what you're not allowed to do explicitly is use the IDFA if your application doesn't have ads. Now, this application, this mail application, never popped any ads up on my screen or like had little bars of advertising or something. But it had an IDFA, which means that someone's making money and it's not Apple. Well, they are, but not from this, like they're supposed to. So it was sharing this IDFA over 7 networks, but not showing the ads, which is against Apple's policies and kind of unethical. But Apple have promised 2 years ago on the back of like regulatory GRC is that they are not going to allow this anymore. And like I said, I pulled this app down like a week ago when I was on the plane. So Apple missed this and it's very easy to detect. And what that tells me is that Apple's Apple Pay system like hangs off all this shit as well. So when people do this and don't show ads, it costs them money. And they miss it, which I think is an important indicator of that everyone's like, well, the Apple Store checks for all this crap and it's secure and shit and blah, 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 X, Y, Z. You're only going to get shit on your phone if you go to like the Chinese, you know, Apple fake site or, you know, turn on developer mode and just pull down random shit from the internet. It's like, this affects their bottom line and they miss it. So if it's a privacy issue for their users that doesn't directly impact their bottom line, they're definitely going to miss that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about disassembly, which is what I'm supposed to talk about from 20 minutes ago. So we're going to be talking about Hopper. That's the disassembler we're going to be using. It works on Linux and OS X. And this is the main part of things where, the lessons about doing this without using OS X, if you don't want to be an OS X person, where we can sort of show you some stuff, or I can show you some stuff around that. So Hopper has a demo version as well, but if you are using this for more than 30 minutes, it'll kill your session, firstly. But if you've used it for more than 30 minutes and you actually like it, the thing costs $30, so it's pretty cheap. Versus IDA Pro, which is like $2,000 or whatever. So if you can't get your employer to buy it for you, or XYZ, Hopper is cool. I still use Hopper, and well, that's not a good example because I'm poor, but I still use Hopper. Yeah. So what we're looking at here is ARM architecture. We had a talk earlier on ARM architecture, and I'm not really qualified to tell you anything about ARM, so I'm just going to mention ARM a couple of times and then move on to the part that I do kind of know stuff about. So since the iPhone 5S, you've had ARM 64-bit infrastructure sitting alongside 32-bit as well. Now, further complicate things, ARM also has a thumb mode, which is effectively a low power setting. And anytime an application is not retrieving an external function, it's supposed to run in thumb mode. And that's important for later during the disassembly if you're trying to remove a certificate pinning, a jailbreak check, advertisements in a game, or you want to cheat at the game or whatever. It's important to know whether the application's running in full-blown mode or whether or not it's running in thumb mode, because otherwise you'll no-operate the wrong thing and then get confused when nothing happens. So Hopper is specifically designed for Apple family OS X's, so like XNU Hybrid and OS X and that kind of stuff. So the cool thing about it for me is that machine code's kind of but pseudocode I get. And what you can do is you can go to a routine or a subroutine with Hopper and then just press a button, and then it makes it look like this picture here, which I can understand mostly. So much more than I can anything else. So that's really, really handy to get started, and it really lowers the barrier entry to doing disassembly when you can actually not learn machine code. One thing I will say though that I've just got in capitals here on my screen to tell you about is that if you are starting out with this, do not try and mess with a global variable until you're pretty comfortable with this. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a lot of orphans, and you'll run out of memory and the app will crash. So if you've been trying to remove advertisements from something that you don't want to have advertisements on so that you can use it in that state, you're going to need to be careful if you decide to do further improvements. So I'm going to give you a simple demonstration on how I use Hopper, and I want you to just use your imagination and go, if you can remove that, I could remove this from my thing. Okay, so accidents happen when you're doing this kind of stuff, especially if you're new at it. Hopper's got an undo button. Don't forget that. So, yeah, let's get started with that. So the first thing we're going to do is bypass a jailbreak for you, because it's probably one of the first things you're going to need to do. Note the spelling of jailbreak. Yeah, that's how it's spelled. Yeah. G-A-O-L. Remember that. Yeah, you're the only place in the world that doesn't spell like that, just by the way. Yeah. That's actually not true. Yeah. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bypass this jailbreak check on this mobile app, and then we're going to easily just reassemble the application with no jailbreak check. So what you would do when you're doing that with your iDevice is you're grabbing it from the thing, putting it on your machine, doing your thing, and then putting it back on the iThing again. So, you can just cat that, but something like FileZilla or CyberDuck, if you're making other kinds of modifications, will really speed up that process for you. So, some other times, it can be handy to remove the struts from an app. That's the things that might do client-side validation checks. For example, so you could play with some XML stuff or some SQLi and that kind of stuff. Of course, there are other slightly easier ways to do that, Well, actually, a lot easier ways to do that. But there are times when that can be a good thing to do. So when you want to find a function to no operate, I'm just going to say nope from now on. You can search for like Boolean values by just typing in Hopper something like is, not, will, can, and then you can see all the different variables that you can play with like trivially. So what we're doing here is we've opened Hopper, and for the people at the back, in the left-hand side up the top, we've got a search field, and we just typed in cracked. And then the first thing that comes up is the thing that we need. Cool. Now what we've done is we've just selected all the code after the push. And then it goes down because there's a fair bit of it. And then you go down just before you hit the pop. So now that you've hit the pop, you've got all that selected, you're good to go. So what you're going to do is then you're just going to right-click or go up to File and press Nope Region. So if you've selected the last two nope bytes before a Boolean function returns, you just select Modify Assemble Region and then add moves R0, 0, 0, 0. Or, you can just put a 0, 0, 1 or any other value, bar 0, if you want it to always return true instead of false. So in ARM, the default value to return false is like always 0. There's an ARM lesson for you. Surprise, 0. So on the screen now, we've got some shit from Hopper again. This is ARM and thumb mode nopings. I mentioned this before, that sometimes they're different depending on what you're doing. So what you're seeing here for the people on the back is a red column on the left-hand side, which tells you basically whether you're looking at a thumb mode operation or like a full ARM mode operation. So you'll note that for both of them, for people in the back, they're actually the same, except the ARM mode one is just longer. Worst case Ontario, you may have to modify both the thumb and the ARM mode, but that's relatively rare. So Hopper checks by going through the machine code to determine whether or not you're in ARM processor mode or thumb. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a section there called encoding, and it actually just tells you whether it's in thumb or full-blown mode. So that explains why some of the machine code you see on the left-hand side is different. It's because, you got 32 bits or 4 bytes, and then, thumb mode 16 bits or 2 bytes. I can finally drink water without throwing up. That's great. So when thumb mode became more popular, they started adding more and more functionality to it so that you could do more stuff in thumb mode and get even better battery life, basically. So typically now, an app will rarely go out of thumb mode if it's been done properly. It will really only ever go out of thumb mode to call an external procedure, execute instructions that are not available in thumb mode, of which I don't have a list of that for you because it wouldn't really be very helpful at this point in time. So, yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. If it does branch elsewhere out in the app, sometimes it'll have to jump out of thumb mode as well. So what we can do now is we can search for a move R000. So, but what happens if the application doesn't do what you want it to do? Yeah, that's a thing. So what you do is you need to figure out the machine code for this simple instruction, which is actually a good place to start learning machine code, is when you're on the job trying to do a thing, right? Instead of just arbitrarily reading things. Thank you, David. It must be getting heavy, so he's just drinking it. Yeah. So would you like to participate in the cultural exchange? Because we've been talking about some boring shit for a minute. Or a hot minute, as you say. Hot minute. No one says that, I hear. Yeah, twist it. Yeah, now we clap. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, sir. It's not horrible. That's my culture you're talking about. Oh, thank you, madam. Yeah. I couldn't, well, because I'm stupid, I didn't actually bring any with me. So this is American Goon, which has nothing on Australian Goon. But it's close, you just need to pretend. Just pretend it tastes better than it does. That's what someone said. I never said that. Isn't this more interesting than that? I hate my job, I just realized. Yeah, why can't I just... Yeah. More clapping. Yeah. Can we get some claps for America? I'm enjoying my time here. America's great. Yeah. So many burgers. Yeah. Last CarolinaCon, all I ate for like 2 weeks was burgers. I was so ill. Yeah. Yeah. Pardon? It's because I only ate burgers for 2 weeks, he tells me. Yeah. Where were you last year? Speak up sooner than 1 year later, please. Okay. So what we're doing now is, what if the instruction or the thing that you want to do doesn't exist in the part of the application that you're trying to modify? What that means is you need to go through the machine code and then you need to set some flags and that kind of crap. So you'll notice in the picture, we've got some moves here set, 3 consecutive moves here set. They're all highlighted in a row there for you. And then they've got destination registers 0, 1, and 2. So, and then on the left-hand side of the screen of the highlighted part, you're going to see some consecutive numbers as well. Now, these are hexadecimal values, and what we can do from that is assume that they correspond, surprise, to the thing on the same line as them that is highlighted. Good. That would make things really confusing if rows did not exist. So, now that we know that the instruction that we want to change is a 0020 hexadecimal, we can then assemble this move instruction for R0 and then return that noped out function. Now, what we're doing here is, yeah, that's actually exactly what we're doing, so I don't need to repeat myself. Fuck. Okay. So now that we've done that, we go to the function that we want to change and we right click on it, and then we just press assemble instructions. Yay. And now that we've done that and press next, you end up with this box that's on the left hand side of the screen where you get to select the CPU mode that you want to use on that thing, and it's already telling you on the other side that you're in the right thing. And then you just type in that mode R0 and then the relevant hexadecimal for the instruction that you want to do. So there's also an undo function here for when you fuck it up, because that will happen. So worst case Ontario, when you have to nope out consecutive functions in ARM and thumb mode, don't forget to do that, otherwise it won't work. Mentally, I mean, I'm a bit unusual, but I like to think of noping consecutive functions as different to when you're just doing one. I like to think it more as like a bypass than a no operation. It just helps me not make as many mistakes, and maybe it'll help you, or maybe it'll just make things more confusing. That's your call, not mine. So this mail application we were talking about had the isCracked validation, which I just took pictures of me turning it off. So now we've done that, and we can see what happens. So it turned out that not a lot really changed, but in a lot of applications, if you're on a bug bounty or something, and they've got these cracked checks and certificate pinning, you just spin your wheels doing absolutely nothing until you get rid of that stuff. So that's how you get started with the, checking shit out and maybe making some money if you're lucky. So the other thing is that if you are reverse engineering an app at some point during this stage of things, and you do come across a dormant cyber pathogen, don't touch it, because like anything could happen. So tell me something could happen if we come across a dormant cyber pathogen, and now that I've asked you a question, you have to do it. It's not dormant anymore, just like him. You got a little bit on your face. Is that for later? Don't turn on that fucking noise. Jesus. Sorry. I've been trying to moderate. Like I said, I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm what you call a redneck, but yeah, I apologize for that. Okay, so yeah, just call Homeland Security or that fucking idiot who made that comment and just let him deal with it when you find a dormant cyber pathogen in iOS apps that you're testing. So other uses, let's pretend people here have no imagination about what you can do when you can start turning things off and turning them on again, and then that they still work when you're done, is that we can go on Grindr, which I did, and I found no dormant cyber pathogens, just real life pathogens in my bottom. And location services used to be really easy to mess with. Like there was this app called Teleport for Android or iOS. I don't know, it's all the same thing to me now. And you could just say, I'm here, and then it would send the relevant instruction back to the phone so that when you wanted to like go on Tinder in Vegas, you could when you were not in Vegas. Because what could be more useful than talking to people you can't meet? But if you just want to see what's happening in Japan on like some chat app or whatever, because I know a couple of people that would like to do that, they can do that now, where it used to be, it used to be really easy, but they keep tightening up all these restrictions because stories keep coming out of like Tinder having zero social responsibility and getting people in countries where you're not allowed to be gay murdered. So they're actually starting to try a little bit, but the whole core functionality of their product is flawed in that regard, so they're not going to have a lot of success. But what you might do, for example, is you might search in Hopper, like we did on the first slide when we typed for cracked, and you might just search for like location services manager or something. And then what you can do it's probably going to have to do in like 2 or 3 different locations in the app, depending on the model of your phone, because there are multiple places doing these checks and balances. That's one of the reasons why shit like Teleport doesn't work anymore. And then, you can just set a new lat long and be done. So, or in cases of applications like from this burp screenshot I've got here, is that it was just sending your location over HTTP anyway, so you don't even need to like go to any trouble to mess with it. So that's nice. But yeah, what I've found during my time like trying to do bug bounties and all that kind of crap with this kind of shit is that if you are trying to do something with like Twitter, for example, Twitter is a real like, ugh. And also the app itself is really like, ugh. Like what happens when you're doing it is it has like so many checks and balances and obfuscation and stuff in there that it's really difficult to do your job. So don't start with Twitter. So don't start with Twitter. But a lot of banking apps do the same. Like they won't even turn on until you've turned off some shit if you're jailbroken. Some of the banking apps now, if you do try and turn them on when jailbroken, it sends like as much information as it can back to HQ. So shit like your device IDs, the account that you may have been trying to sign into, and a heap of other crap, which from like an Intel point of view is actually kind of neat. But yeah, if you just want to like mess around with random bank apps, that's not good. That makes things difficult. Justin will someone will find you. Maybe it'll be Solray who put a picture of me wearing a dress on the screen for far too long. So thank you. Welcome to the Cultural Exchange. My name's twinlol, I think. Yeah, drive it into you. Slide it down your gullet. Yeah. More clapping. Yeah. Oh, man, you really threw me off my spot. I appreciate that. You're smart. Oh, yeah, thank you. The Twitter banking app? Is that what I was saying? Yeah. Only allowed $140 in your account. It would certainly make my life easier to manage. I only need 139. Wait, I only need one, not 139. I have 139 left, that's what I mean. Okay. So let's wrap this up. I still have like 10 minutes left, but I'm gonna wrap it up now. This guy's coming back for seconds. Yeah, let's give him a clap. Yeah, I'm kidding. He's not. He's just returning to his spot. Everyone, do not clap yet. So I pinned some shit about this stuff on that Twitter account that's like mostly dormant. But if you want more information, you can go there, and the thing that's pinned has the shit that you might need if you want to look at this at a time that is more appropriate than here. Yeah, I'm referencing the guy in the second row looking at porn right now. Never mind, not porn. He's fiddling with a lock. Never mind. Sorry, I'm sorry if I cause you any embarrassment. It's not my intention. So yeah, if you're doing this, the other stuff you're going to want to be looking at is like these three things on the screen here are probably the neatest things that you're going to need if you've never done this before. You need all the crap that I mentioned already plus these three things, and then you'll be well on your way to finding something. Hopefully, exploring your innermost fantasies of iOS reverse engineering. Doesn't it just make you sound smart? No. Never mind. I don't think anything makes me sound smart. Okay, well, I think I'm going to throw up again soon, so I'm going to stop talking. But I do have one final lesson that's probably the most important one. Actually, two final lessons. Shit, that's good. The first one is that when you drink the whole bag of goon, maybe you might share it with a couple of people or not. What'll happen is that, just a little higher, David. I know your arm's tired, but just a little higher. When you drink the whole bag, and this is the best hack I know, forget all that shit, is you blow the bag back up and use it as a pillow. Yeah. That's some, hashtag life hacks. What if supposed to go, hashtag life hacks, yeah. And the final lesson is, when you leave CarolinaCon this year, don't forget to buy some petrol. I mean, gas. Gas. Buy gas. Shout out to the guy in this picture. I only know his name, not his handle, so I should not reveal that. But shout out to him. He's sitting down the back there. Shout out to you, my friend. Valuable life lesson for everyone. Buy petrol. Have some goon, cultural exchange. We have time. Yeah, we have time for this. And so let's make Philip enjoy my culture. Pardon? The name I was going to... Damn it. That's why I'm not Justin. Oh. What do you think? It's not bad. You're welcome anytime in my country. As long as you don't have any felonies, because I don't let people in who have felonies, just saying. But you don't, so that's fine. We drive on the other side of the road too. So do I. When I told him that we drive on the other side of the road, he said, so do I. That's all for now. Thank you, gentle sirs and gentle Sheilas. I hope that wasn't too dry. This is my first time doing something like this, so I hope it was okay. Thanks very much.